Welcome to the Unearthed Man Podcast, the journey of becoming a conscious man, hosted by Milvo. Hey all, Milvo here, and welcome to episode 7 of the Unearthed Man Podcast. For all those who have subscribed and are loyal listeners, thank you very much for staying on the journey. And if this is your first time listening into the Unearthed Man Podcast, welcome aboard. I hope you get out of it what you're seeking to do and that you decide to even go back and listen into some of the other previous episodes that I've put up so far. If you don't want to connect with me or touch base with me, then you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. In relation to the guest that is actually coming up, we've decided to do a part 1 and a part 2. And I'm super excited because, as you'll see when we get into the episode today, we got really in depth into some great conversations. Didn't get through everything we're after, so my guest agreed to come back and do a secondary episode. So rather than the breakup of me doing an episode and then having an interview, the next 2 weeks are actually going to be part 1 and part 2. So on that point, let's just get into today's episode. My guest today is a holistic mindset coach. He helps men overcome procrastination and to get fit physically and mentally. This work was born out of a desire to guide others to experience greater confidence and freedom in their health and lives. In his childhood, several of his family members passed away from health-related ailments such as cancer and heart disease. This challenging time sparked a deep yearning for knowledge about how to improve the human experience through movement, nutrition, powerful language, mindset, and breathwork. He believes that COVID-19 and the race equality movement has given us a unique opportunity to step back and reevaluate the collective societal norms, our personal worlds, our perspectives, our health, and our lives. He sees this as an epic chance to take our power back by adopting a mindset of curiosity and self-responsibility. Welcome to the Unearthed Man Podcast, Regi Farmer.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Excited to be on today.
Yeah, cheers, Regi. Thanks for coming on board, man. Probably just take a half step back. Myself and my wife, and you had both a shared experience on Preston Smiles and Alexi Panos' The Bridge Experience and Extreme Leadership back in November last year. How was that experience for you going through those 5 days of fairly solid workshop?
Yeah, that workshop was ego shattering, and it completely redefined my perspective on just what's possible for me and my ability to hold space for that, I would say. And in that workshop, one of the principles is you don't know what you don't know, and to really operate in that space was and got me to where I'm at today, because in that space for the past 4 to 6 months, including with COVID-19, there's a lot of unknowns going on right now as far as business, just essentially the way the world's been working is not working like that anymore. So, it prepared me for everything that we're going through right now. So I was excited about that. Yeah.
That's cool. So, and I love that. So, what for you? You're doing now the coaching. You're living in Australia at the moment. Was that off the back of doing Bridge and Extreme that you've actually now opened up and going, I'm just going to step into this area of a bit of an unknown and just take a chance and see where it takes me? Is that the catalyst that's happened for you there?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Leading up to Bridge and Extreme, I wanted to do Bridge and Extreme a year before. So 2018, I wanted to do it, and I wasn't able to make that happen. So fast forward a year later, in October of 2019, I flew out here and met my wonderful partner, Yasmina Adler. And that right there, I spent 2 weeks in Australia, and I decided in that moment, okay, I want to move to Australia. I want to just explore this relationship and explore just a new life for myself, new possibilities, because 2019 was the hardest year of my life. And up to that point, I was working as a personal trainer, and I was trying new things, wanted to expand my coaching practice into online coaching. and it just wasn't really working in my favor. And I won't say it wasn't working in my favor. I wasn't working in my favor, and universal challenges were, they were, they were putting blocks in my way. It was a really challenging year. So just in the course of last year, I went to 2 gyms, and 2 of those gyms got shut down. This was before COVID-19. This was before anything. Both gyms shut down completely and moved locations. One of them didn't reopen. The other one didn't reopen for months. So these challenges, me to like thinking to myself, okay, this is interesting. I have called this situation, and these gyms are not just closing randomly. I've literally chosen this for myself unconsciously or consciously, some way, some form. I've chosen these gyms, and I took it as a sign that it was time for me to move on and really jump into the coaching realm and coach online and move away from the comfort zone of being a personal trainer, which is what I was doing at first. So jumped in the bridge, jumped into extreme after I came to Australia, and it was all unknown for me. So, yeah.
Excellent, man. And I actually love that story. I want to go back and just re-explore back, because there's another amazing story in there which you touched on, which is about Yasmina, and the actually moving out to catch up with her, because you guys had just been interacting online, I believe, and hadn't actually met face to face until you came out to Australia. Is that true?
Yes, that's accurate as well. It was online via the Bridge crew. So she did Bridge 2017 up here in Gold Coast.
Yep.
And I did Man Cave in 2018. And when you do those courses, you become friends with people online on Facebook that have gone through those courses as well. And the algorithm, when you add those people, other people pop up, and it's like, this person, you might like this person, add this person, blah, blah, blah. So it kept popping up on my feed as a person I may like to know. So she popped up about 3 or 4 times. I kind of skirted through it, didn't add her, didn't think much of it because I didn't think it was a possibility. But then she kept popping up in my feed, and I was like, all right, there's something here. I'm going to add her. So I added her. A couple of days later, she messages me. We get to talking. We talk for 9 months every day virtually. And we're like, let's make this thing real. So I flew out here for 2 weeks, and then we hit it off, and it was amazing. We both had an amazing experience. I flew back to the States, and I gave myself 3 weeks to figure out how to move to Australia. And I burned the boats, man. I burned the boats. I'm saying, I'm doing this. If I fall flat on my face, so what? And she was clear on that. And she was like, I'll help you get started up out here and support you through it. And we support each other. And 8 months, almost 9 months later, we're here. So, yeah. And it's been amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've been watching the, really online, but some interaction, just watching this relationship with Yasmina between yourselves grow. And it's just, it's a really great space to see you both in, because you're both similar to myself and Jackie, my wife. You're both in that development space and the conscious space, and challenging each other as to where you're at and how things move. So I can just see that constant, beautiful connection taking place. Let's touch back on, how did you move beyond the fear? I mean, you come out for 2 weeks, you go back to the US. There's got to be a lot of fear, doubt, all those elements running in you. So in our world of being sort of the man and the conscious man that we're sort of becoming, we're learning more how to operate and live in that space of fear, and because that's where the challenge is, and that's how we sort of can move forward. What were some of the things that you did, or the conversations that you might have had to have either with yourself or others to say, yeah, I'm just going to go and trust my intuition and take this leap?
Yeah, man, that's a great question. A lot of it came out of pain. I honestly, to this day, feel like the universe forced me into making this decision. I highly believe in listening to my soul's guidance, and that's something that I continue to call in for myself. The ability to trust myself, the ability to lean into my intuition, the ability to act upon those impulses from my heart with courage, because I understand that whenever you have your heart's desires, your heart's will, that's going to cause you to step into spaces that bring up a lot of fear. Whenever you follow your soul's journey, whenever I started to follow my soul's journey, it brought up a lot of shit, a lot of ego. You know, my ego doesn't want to fail. It doesn't want to look bad. It doesn't want to go out to Australia and fall flat on my face and end up back home where I started. There was a lot of that conversation. And really, it was a decision to a commitment, not only a decision, but a commitment to follow my heart and do it with courage and to understand that I'm not going to die. like I'm going to a first world country. Like I know a lot of people out there. I was going to go to Bridge with Preston and Alexi, and I knew that was going to give me some tools that I needed to be able to move through the fear and trust myself. And I'd already been through some personal development seminars and things like that also helped me. And also, this was something that I'd written down in my journal. A year before that, prior to that, I wrote down my perfect day and what that would look like. And I wrote about being in Australia. I wrote about being with a partner that I loved. I wrote about coaching. I wrote all of this out. And it started to unfold slowly but surely. And I would get signs along the way that it was in fact working, because I believe that the universe, once you make a decision, the universe will conspire, God will conspire to support you. And that support doesn't always look like support if looking at it from a worldly third level view. As in both those gyms burning, crashing, that whole idea, those two gyms that I was in, both of those gyms shutting down, for me, that looked like I was being attacked, when really it was in support for me to take a leap of faith and jump into the journey into the unknown. So I say all that to say it was writing the story out and seeing that story start to play out in my life slowly but surely. That's what gave me courage, was seeing that little things that I was doing and that I'd written down in my perfect day were coming true, but it didn't look exactly like I wanted it to. So that's what really helped me. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No. I absolutely love that, because one of the things that we spoke about, because I did Unleash the Beast, which was after Bridge and Extreme. The one thing that clear message that came out for us was the whole thing of the universe says yes. So whether that be a God or a Buddha or Allah or whoever you want it to run with. But the universe has this wonderful way of saying yes. So if you, like you've done, you've written down the perfect day, or you've got your vision board, or you've got something out there, if you run with it and you keep calling it in and you have that mindset about, hey, I want to do this and this is where I'm going to go, the universe just has this amazing way that if we keep open to the signs, keep saying, yes, you can have that. Yes, you can do that. Yes, you can achieve that. It's only when I think you're right, when we drop out of our intuition and our heart, which is in alignment with the universe, and we actually get back into our ego space and we shut all that off, that, all of a sudden things start going wrong and we start to question what was actually happening. So, yeah, I'm in definite alignment with that. On a slight aside, when all this vision board stuff first came out, I think it was around 2007 or something, like it was a while ago, I ended up doing one. I put down a picture of a car that I wanted. I put down a tropical island that I wanted to go to. And I can't remember what the third thing was. Mine had just been some dollars. And interestingly, all of those three came to fruition within 2 years. I'd gone to the tropical island. I doubled my salary. I got a redundancy, but moved into a contracting role and doubled my salary. I ended up buying the car that I actually wanted. So it's really amazing when you put it out there and you just visualize it and you talk to it and you believe in it, how all that can actually just drop back into your lap and you go, this is pretty amazing. The universe will say yes.
Yes, absolutely, man. That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And I actually did a vision board as well. And it's funny when you drop out of your heart and you drop out of the clarity of the vision. That's when things get a little funny, man. I've definitely dropped out of that a few times on the way out here, and just even today, it's this constant, like it's an in and out battle, But what helps is just having that whether it be a vision board or it be the perfect day, just having that clarity, like each morning when you wake up, just knowing, okay, this is what I'm going for, having that constant reminder, or whether it be through a tool like mantras. Mantras were powerful for me.
Yep.
I'm open to receiving. Like that's something that I say all the time. So, and another one is I'm a king. And for us, we went through Unleash the Beast and Man Cave. And when you're in your king, you're in your heart as well.
Yes.
So it's like just having the knowledge of that and having that level of clarity of vision, and then just feeling what it would feel like to have those things come true. And I would sit there and like meditate on my vision board and just like feel what it would feel like to have those things come true. I would sit out in the sun, Tennessee, and just like feel the warmth of the sun and pretend like I was in Australia or in California. It was one of the two. I wanted to go one of the two of my favorite places on planet Earth. So it was like just feeling that and knowing that it could be true. That was so key. So yeah, man.
And I think you've touched on the key word there, where I think some people don't quite get alignment between the vision board or the mantra or the vision. It's actually just not saying it, but it's feeling it. It's actually that, because the feeling in the heart gives you that energy connection to the universe or what's actually going on. You can say it, but the universe knows if you don't believe it. Whereas if you actually feel into it, and you're right, when you feel, and how does it feel to sit beside a beach where there's palm trees with a light breeze, or how does it feel to be out in the ocean when you're catching that perfect wave? Or if you can always bring that back in and bring it back into that actual feeling that, when we did Unleash, they helped us work through, can you smell it? Can you hear it? Can you feel it? Can you taste it? Can you see it? Like, use all of your five senses, and every time you close your eyes and you look at that vision, you actually could taste the sea, you could feel the sun, and it was just amazing when you do that, what actually starts to drop in for you. So it's
huge. I mean, because you think about it, I'm of the belief that we're a soul. We're a soul, and this body is our vehicle. It's our vessel to move and create and do the work that we came to do on this planet in the 3D reality that we live in on planet Earth, right? And we experience life through our five senses. So we've got to use this body through the five senses. Our body's like this big antenna that connects to God, to Buddha, to Allah, whatever your belief systems are. This body, the whole vessel, connects to the Most High. And you do that through feeling, through sensation, through being in your heart, not only with thought. I think about the process of manifestation that goes, an acronym called TFAR: thought, feeling, action, and results. You get a thought, you get that inspiration, you think about it, and then that thought drops into feeling. That feeling turns into an action, and your consistent actions get the results that you want. And it's not that linear all the time, we know that, but it can be different. I'm curious for you, when you, as a man, it was really challenging for me to even understand what being in your heart meant. What was your experience going through Unleash the Beast, and how that allowed you to tune into just feeling and intuition more? So how was that for you?
Yeah, so I had two amazing experiences that led me to that point of time. I'd always been really closed off and a fairly angry person, although deep down I knew that I was emotional, but it was coming as anger emotion, not love emotion. One of the and I spoke a bit about this on the previous podcast with Blaze, was I injured my calf at Unleash, and I messaged Jackie to say, hey, just have some ice ready. And I meant for the hotel later on. Jackie brings ice to this workshop with 50 men, right? Knocks on the door. Blaze answers. He's like, who are you? Oh, yeah, my husband had hurt his calf. And in the end, Blaze calls out and goes, did any man actually injure his calf here? And I'm like, fuck, now that's me, right? It's like, you've got fucking 50 men here. Like, and you didn't turn to one of the 50 men, and you turned to your wife. Like, what the hell's going on with you? Anyway, but they didn't call me out like judgmental. They said, how do we support this guy? I ended up being held up above every man's head. Like all 50 men end up having a hand on me, holding them above like their heads. And I was just crying and letting all this emotion out. But by letting all that out, which is really all the anger and all the frustrations I'd held for years, that opened my heart to all the love that every single man. So when they actually put me down, that was the first time I opened my eyes. And I could see in the room, every one of those 50 men were just looking at me, but they were looking at me through their heart. It wasn't through their mind. There was not one person with any judgment. And for me, that was just become such a powerful thing to go, wow, none of these men know me, but every single one of them loves me, and every single one of them actually feels compassion for me and just wants to support me and know that I'm a loved human being. And that was just immense, like such a powerful experience. I still get emotional when I talk through it as well. And then the other one was when we did the breath work. For me, the breath work was really extreme. I effectively went through 3 stages on the breath work. The first one, I actually just wanted to die. I actually was telling myself, it's okay, shut down, heart shut down, brain shut down. Like, I'm out, right? I'm lying in a corpse position going, just shut this whole thing down. Like, I'm out of here. The second one was a lot of grieving, but my uncle who'd passed away 12 months before that actually came into me in a vision, and so did his dad, his grandpa. And they just told me everything's going to be okay. It is going to be good. You're going to be okay. And then the last one was I just started yelling, get the fuck out, get the fuck out. And that was to release this anger that I'd held. And I physically felt it leaving out through my fingertips and out through my body. And the sense of calm that I had after that, like I've never felt anything like before. I know you did the bat exercise, when you're belting the mat, and they wanted everyone to get really angry and make sure they were doing that. I sat and meditated. After I did it the first time, I sat and meditated in such a calm space while all this chaos and anger is going around me. And I'm like, that's amazing. And ever since then, that's where I've been able to now drop directly into my heart space, because I've had those 2 rather amazing experiences.
Wow, man, that is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that so much. That was like, I didn't have necessarily the same experience, but just noticing the distinction between like when I'm in my head versus when I've been in my heart has been one of the biggest lessons, I believe, over this past year for me. Just going through those different various programs and having a partner that can really help me understand when I drop out, because she picks up on it, and I've never had that sort of reflection for me walking around in the house with me. So it's like, she can pick me up when I've fallen out of my heart. So it's and it seems like everything runs so much more smoothly just in my life, and especially in my relationship, when I'm able to keep an open heart, rather than shut down and close off my energy, which has been what I've gone to the majority of my life, is to shut down and run away and all of those sorts of things. So that's been the biggest lesson for me. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
No, that's right. And to be honest, so let's now touch on a different topic, given of what you've just spoken about there. In the equality and a lot of the what's come out definitely around racism and Black Lives Matter and everything else. For those who haven't picked up here, Regi is a Black American. So let's talk through that, because I've never experienced this. I recently did just a video blog up in Facebook and LinkedIn where I said, here's the things I know. I know what it's like to be a white Australian male, and I know the privileges I've had. But here are the things I don't know. I don't know what it's like to be, a Black American or a Black, Australian or anything like that. I don't know what it's like to be a Muslim in our country who, if they want to wear their headdress, can be pointed at or looked at. I don't know what it's like to have someone cross the road because of my background and my color of my skin and everything else. So there are things I just aren't aware of, and I think there's a lot of others aren't out there. For you, growing up, through, obviously the times where there hasn't been equality between, white skin and black skin. But now that you're in this space of dropping into your heart as opposed to your mind, how's that working for you? And I'm happy to talk through any challenges you had growing up in America as well.
Yeah. I would say this is a big conversation. There's been a lot of anger that has come up for me as of recent, due to things that are going on in the world. And it's given me an opportunity to reflect back on my own personal life, on things that I've written off as normal, or it's just the way that things are, and not acknowledging the frustration that I felt due to those experiences. And the experiences that I'm talking about are experiences. So growing up, I went to an all Black school for 3 years in the ghetto, in the inner cities, in East Nashville, Tennessee. And during that experience, I got into about 5 fights, and my mom's boyfriend got shot and killed while we were out there. And that's when my mom drew the line in the sand and said, "We're moving. This environment is not conducive for your growth, and I want you to be able to experience, not needing to worry about getting beat up by walking down the street or going to play basketball at the park or anything like that."
Yep.
So we transitioned and we moved to an all-white school, and this was in class a white school. And my experience there was it was much more peaceful. The experience that I received from the teachers were better. The education was better, things like that. So I just noticed the difference between those two lifestyles. And with that experience, when I got to the all-white school, there was a lot of the kids just didn't understand necessarily like what it was like to be Black. And I never explained it to anybody because out of the 1,200 kids, there was like 30 or 40 Black kids at this school. And there was just like ignorance, there was like more of an ignorance thing. It wasn't like anybody was necessarily racist or anything like that, but it was just an ignorance. So, at that school, I wanted to party and stuff with my friends in high school and stuff. So for an example, we went to a party, and at this party, there's about 40 people there. There's 3 Black kids there. And the police break up the party. We go out. They tell everybody to go outside. They sit us all on a curve on the back of the house, essentially. And out of all 40 people that are sitting on the back porch or the back curb, they pick out 3 people first. The first 3 people that they pick out, one of my friends who's Black, he's an upperclassman. 2, they picked out me. And then 3, they picked out a Colombian friend of mine. He's Hispanic. And the rest, were pretty much all white, So that was like my first experience with that. And I just heard through the grapevine that just growing up that watch out, you got to be careful because you're going to be seen different because you're Black. And I heard this. These are beliefs that were injected into me and experiences of my parents and of other older Black people that I knew. And that was the first time I experienced it directly. So long story short, my friend called me recently about 4 days ago, and he said, "Yo, this is my white friend from high school." He said, "Yo, Reg, you remember that one time when the party got broken up and the police picked out you out of, out of the 40 people there, they picked out you and the other Black dude and one of our Hispanic friends?" And I was like, "Yeah, bro, I remember that." And he was like, "Damn, man, I just wanted to call you and see if I was remembering correctly." And he was just like, "I'm sorry, man. I had no idea that you experienced that. I was just ignorant to the fact." And that brought my attention to like, wow, they just didn't know what you didn't know. If you're not Black, how the hell are you supposed to know? Unless somebody Black tells you, or if you have like a friend that's really close to you that tells you, or you just have an interest in those sort of things, like you're not gonna know, So there's a bit of anger within myself, anger within the systems and the structures that have been set up that have perpetuated unconscious presence in racism and separation. And that there it has required me to definitely keep my heart open and to just get curious. Curiosity has been key for me in this. I'm just getting curious as to how things have gotten to the point they are. How have I grown to have the prejudices that I have? How have other people learned the prejudices that they have? They didn't come into this earth with them or this planet with them. They learned them through through systematic whatever, just through the culture essentially. So yeah.
It's and thank you for that the story and talking through that. Again, I probably have lived in in that world of ignorance for a long period of time. However, said that, I've never been. I don't think I've actively ever done anything against anyone of any color. But then again, I haven't actively done anything to stop others probably doing that as well. And I think that's one of the key messages is about, are you just sitting there shutting off to it all, whatever else? There's a couple of things that have popped up for me recently, which is a bit about the conditioning that we get over and over our life. And, I grew up watching cowboy movies, John Wayne, all these sorts of things. And someone brought it out the other day. It's like, have you ever noticed that the bad guys are always in black? Like subtle things, and now, I walk down the street and we live now near Chapel Street. So we walk down there, like mannequin city. It's all white, like all skinny white mannequins, both for the men and for the females. So it's like, wow, the whole conditioning is constantly there and there and there about, a different color skin is different. It's not just normal. It's not on the basis that we actually end up being white because we move further away from the equator. That's just evolution, right? I'm white skinned because my mum and dad, one was in England and one was from Ireland. There's no fucking sun there. They are going to end up becoming white people, right? And so this whole, the other thing that I want to explore a bit more with you, Regi, separatism, because I love that you use that terminology, because I think in this day and age, the media, the governments, everything we see has an ism attached to it. Sexism, racism, pick anything else around there. Our politics are, in the US, Democrat versus Republican, liberal versus Labor. It's male versus female. It's in the US, it's probably GM versus Ford. Over here, it was Holden versus Ford. Like, we spend so much time trying to polarize and separate, basically put this separatism into our society so that people ultimately end up coming back in arguments. Thoughts around that space?
Well, yeah, separatism is something that permeates humanity, essentially that's the world that we're born into. And I think that it's perpetuated by people who have created the world that we live in today, as far as the society that we live in today. And the separatism that we experience is the effect of programming that has been created to, in my opinion, keep certain people in bondage, mental bondage, if you will.
Yep.
And by certain people, I do mean blacks and whites. Racism in and of itself, I think when I think about it, I think about some of my white friends that I did have and some of my black friends as well, but I'll focus on my white friends right now. I did have some racist and prejudiced white friends, if you will, growing up. And from what I saw, like I said before, I alluded to before, the separatism was something that was learned. It's not something that we inherently come with on this planet as far as when it comes to the color of somebody's skin. We don't just we aren't born and just think that this person's less than me because they're white or black. If you look at kids, they just play with each other.
Yep.
So yeah, Yeah. So I essentially think that it's something that comes down from a higher level elite system of people at the top that have created and perpetuated this culture that we live in today. And that's where we find ourselves in this identity-based, ego-based reality where people are focused on me versus you, black versus white. And it's all playing into a control mechanism, a system to just keep people blind. In my personal opinion, I know this may be taken somewhere that you may not want it to go, but that's my personal opinion. That's what I see is going on right now. So yeah.
So personally, I agree. I agree. There are factions, higher up factions with a lot of influence that prefer everyone to be separate and having arguments against each other. And there's a lot of manipulation off the back of that is actually taking place. I feel, is COVID real? Yes. Is it as big as as big as what it's made out to? Absolutely not. We did not have to be in lockdown because of this. We've had many other flus and viruses since the last 200 odd years. We didn't have to do this. So all of these things that are coming out, they get driven from one way or the other. There is something, there are people manipulating the system for whatever greed or whatever other means they feel they have to do it. And unfortunately, the more I believe that we're becoming sheep, which is, this podcast is about, moving away from being sheep and being for your own self and being able to be critically thinking about what's going on, then I think that's, we need more and more people like yourself willing to, put that opinion on the table and myself. And that's what I'm trying to do as well.
Yeah. And now that you say that, I really appreciate you commenting on that. And one thing that comes up for me is it's this encouragement to be in more of your ego. And the ego is more of a separatismic type of personal reality, this viewpoint of me versus you, us versus them. It creates borders, it creates divides, and all of those types of things. And it's everyone is encouraged to essentially move away from your heart, which your heart is open, it's connective. And that's done through not only like media, it's done through the food that we eat, the GMO genetically modified foods, the SAD diet, which is called the standard American diet. That's another thing. And that creates an inflammatory process in the body, not only cellularly, where your cells don't communicate with each other well, they don't conduct electrical impulses very well, which means that your body experiences disease and other stress, hyper stress, things like that. And when you're experiencing hyper stress at a cellular level, it expresses itself at a human level, at a physical level. So, and that's not gonna, when you're in that space of stress, you're not encouraged to be in your heart, because when you're in stress, you're focused on survival instead of creation. You're focused on more, there's more of a selfish perspective, and that's just human nature. You can't really help it if you're trying to survive, to be in your heart. So we're encouraged to be in that survival egoic state versus being in our heart open space, eating organic foods, getting a lot of sun, things like that. So it's just one big game that's been stacked up against us. And now this podcast, people like us, get to share this wonderful message and bring everybody back together with an open heart. So I think it comes back to that open heart piece, 100%.
Absolutely would agree. Now, Regi, I think we could probably talk for another hour at least. I know that your time's precious. And so I'm going to make this commitment on this podcast that Regi will be coming back onto the podcast, because Regi does some really cool stuff in relation to training and his physical training, and it's all about animal movements. But yeah, I think I really want to spend time. Let's grab another episode after this, Regi, because I really want to sit down and talk through exactly what you've just reached into here, how the body operates, how the animal movements work, how that helps us keep connected, how that aligns with our body and how our whole system operates. I think there's, for the men out there who want to know, hey, what can I actually do that means I don't have to go to a gym or whatever else, or I can actually just do these simple movements in my house or whatever else, but get a lot of value out of them and have that connection back into the heart and my energy space. I think there's some really good stuff that we could talk through on that one.
Yeah, fully. Absolutely. Would love to, brother. Would love to. That's the game I love right there. So, yeah, holistic health is the game.
All right, cool. So Reggie is now committed and I'm committed. We'll drop back in for another follow-up episode with Reggie pretty soon in relation to the having that holistic body movements and how we actually bring that whole mind, body, spirit, energy into one being. And I think that'll be a super cool thing. So Reggie, as I said, look, I'm just going to probably wrap it up here because it feels like a good logical point. We started with the heart. We finished with the heart. That's exactly the most beautiful place for us to go in. Thanks for your time today. I've loved getting to know you. I've loved spending, seeing how you've interacted. We've only had a few conversations here and there, but it feels like we've known each other for a very long period of time, and there's a really solid connection. So take care. Good luck with Yasmina and everything you're doing. Good luck with the move up into the northern states of Australia. And I just want to say thank you very much for being very open, and very honest, and very candid on the podcast today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, brother. Thank you so much for having me on. And it's been a pleasure getting to know you. And like you said, it feels like we've known each other for a long time. We've only talked and met a few times. And I think that that's just a great sign of a soul connection. So I'm open to exploring it. And yeah, looking forward to chatting with you again, brother.
All right. Awesome. Okay, Reggie, take care. And we'll chat to you very soon again. Much love, brother.
Yeah, much love to you too. Yeah.
That was part one of the interview with the amazing Regi Farmer. Definitely please tune in next week when we continue on the conversation and Reggie explains more about his holistic coaching approach, which covers off the alignment between the spiritual, the mental, the physical, and the emotion. And he goes through a number of the different unique techniques that he uses. So thank you very much for listening in to today's episode. Sending you much love and care, the Unearthed Man.